70-740 Lab 2, Installing, Upgrading, and Migrating Server Workloads. So in this lab, we're going to be working with our LUN DC1, our LUN Server 2, and LUN Server 3. So while we talk about the lab, I'm going to go ahead and get my systems on. I'll go ahead and tell that LUN DC to power on. We always have our DC1 up first. If our domain controller is not operational, our network won't be. I can see it's in the green. I'll go ahead and tell my LUN SVR2 to start up, and then finally the SVR3. So we're going to be looking at installing roles and features, migrating roles between servers, managing servers remotely, and then finally what we're going to do is we're going to clean up our servers by resetting them. So let's begin. We're going to be logging into our SVR2, so I'm going to go ahead and access the console for it and go ahead and get logged in. And of course we log in using our capital PA11WORD password. Helps if I type the correct password. There we are. And once we're in there, we're going to be going into Server Manager, and we're going to be going to add roles and features. We're just waiting for that Server Manager to come up. Should only take a few more moments. Make sure your environment's all working. While I'm waiting for that, I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to log into SVR3 at the same time. That way we won't have to wait for Server Manager to come up if it's not already up on the screen. Okay, so that's logging on. I'm going to go ahead and go back over to SVR2. I'm going to maximize my Server Manager because, as we talked about, this is the main place we're going to be working with our roles. Adding features, adding roles, maybe removing roles or features, or working with our management consoles by going to Tools. In this case, we're going to click on Manage, and then we're going to go to Add Roles and Features. This is the way we add a role or a feature to our Windows server. Wizard screen, we're going to see that many times. We can just go ahead, we can click Next. As we discussed previously, everything we're going to be doing is going to be role-based or feature-based, so we're going to click Next. We're going to install it on our SVR2, so we click Next. And we're going to scroll to the bottom of the list. We're going to select Web Server. We're going to add the management features. And then we're going to click Next. Now, on features, let's go ahead and scroll down until we see Telnet Client. And we're going to select that. And we're also going to scroll to the very bottom of the list and select XPS Viewer. This allows you to read, set permissions for, and digitally sign documents. Once you've got those two features selected, go ahead and we're going to scroll back up, and we're going to expand Remote Server Administration Tools. And then we're going to expand Feature Administration Tools. This is all the different feature administration tools that we can add. And now we can expand the Role Administration Tools. And if we take a look there, here are all the various role administration tools we can add. Now, our first question in our workbook, but in your workbook it's question number 3 because we didn't do our first exercise. There was a couple questions we passed over. So the first question you're going to answer is question number 3. And that question is, which options should be selected when you want to manage Active Directory? Well, is it Active Directory Certificate Services? Well, no, that's Certificate Services. It's not Rights Management Service either. See this first one, ADDS, that's our Active Directory Domain Services. Here are the snap-ins that we should be adding. Our module for PowerShell, our Active Directory Administration Center, our Active Directory Domain Services snap-ins, and command line tools. And the ADLS perhaps as well. These are all tools that we would want to add. We'd want to just simply select the first one, and that will add all those for us at one shot. So the answer is ADDS and ADLS tools. Okay, but we're not going to select them. We're simply answering the question. We're going to uncheck that. We've got the Telnet and XPS viewer selected as features that are going to be installed. We're going to click Next. A little explanation on the web server role. We're going to click Next. On role services, simply click Next. We're going to just accept the default settings for web server. And click Install. This is how we install roles and features. We're going to wait for this to finish, and once your installation has completed, we'll take a screenshot and paste that into step number 13. While that installs, I'm going to pause the video. Okay, and I'm back. My role and features have finished installing. So you want to take a screenshot of your entire browser. Remember, I need to be able to see your name in that upper right corner. You're going to paste that into step number 13. If you've gotten your screenshot, go ahead and click Close. Now, question number 4. Where else can you find disk management? Okay, so where do we find disk management? What is disk management? Well, remember, disk management is how you can initialize a disk or format, give a volume label, assign a drive letter, all those things. Where can you find that? Well, you can find it in computer management. If we wait just a moment for it to come up on our screen, right there, disk management. Disk management can be found in computer management. It's part of it. All right, there's question number 4. Let's move on to exercise 2.3, which is migrating roles between servers. In this exercise, you're going to use Windows Server migration tools to migrate a DHCP server role from one server to another. Many roles included with Windows Server 2016 involve a lot of configuring. A particular role might require policies, security, or other settings that you must configure before it can be used. Therefore, when you want to migrate such roles, you want to find a way that you can migrate them and all their configuration settings to another server quickly and easily without having to install and configure the role from the beginning. If you search for migrating roles and features in Windows Server, you should find a list of available migration guides, including how to use the Windows Server migration tools, that's WSMT, and how to migrate individual roles from one server to another. So let's go ahead and do that. When we're still logged into our LUN SVR2, and what we're going to do is we're going to go back up to Manage and Add Roles and Features. And we're going to click past the wizard screen and click Next and click Next. And we're going to select DHCP Server. We're going to add those features. And we're going to click Next. And we're going to click Next. On the select features, we're going to go ahead and click Next. On the DHCP server, we're going to click Next. On the confirmation installation selections, we're going to click Install. Now I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to pause the video once more while the installation proceeds. Okay, well that only took about a minute, but there's no reason for you to stare at my screen for a minute when you're going to have to do the same thing. I want you to be able to see your instructions, right? Okay, so what we're going to do is, now that we've completed that installation, we need to complete the DHCP configuration. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to click that, Complete DHCP Configuration. Now, what does that do? This is our post-installation wizard. It's going to create the following security groups, and we'll also use our credentials to authorize it. So we're going to click Next. There's the credentials we're going to use, and we click Commit. And just that quickly, it's done. On our summary screen, this is our next screenshot. Go ahead and take a screenshot showing that summary and paste it into step number 14. If you've got your screenshot, go ahead and click Close. And then we can click Close one more time. On our SVR2, we're going to go to Tools. We're going to go down to DHCP. And once it comes up, we're going to make it a little bit larger so it's easy to work with. I'm going to move that left bar over a little bit. I'm going to select our server name. And I'm going to select IPv4. And then I'm going to right click and say New Scope. On the New Scope wizard, we click Next. A lot of those wizards we just click Next on, huh? Now, we're going to create a new scope. We're going to call that Main Scope. Just a name that we can remember. We're going to click Next. For our starting IP address, we're going to give it 192.168.1.30. And for our ending IP address, we're going to select 192.168.1.40. We're going to leave the length, the subnet mask, as is default. We're going to click Next. For exclusions and delays, we're simply going to click Next. For lease duration, we want to change that to a single day. So from 8 days, we're going to make that 1 day. And then we're going to click Next. On the configure options, we're going to select Yes and Next. And on the router gateway, default gateway, here we're going to leave it empty. We're going to click Next. We're going to accept those domain name and DNS server address. We're going to click Next. On Win servers, we're going to click Next. We're going to leave that empty. And we're going to activate the scope. So yes, click Next. And click Finish. So we have a configured scope. And this could have many address assignments. It could have reservations and scope options. Could be a lot of different things. It's fully configured. It could be in operation for a long time. It might handle out 1,000 IP addresses, not just 10. Let's go ahead and close our DHCP Management Console. Now we're going to go back to Manage, and we're going to go back to Add Roles and Features. We're going to click Next, Next, Next. That's 3 nexts, and get to the roles. On the Server Roles page, we're going to click Next. And on the Features page, we're going to scroll down until we see Windows Server Migration Tools right here. Select that. And then click Next. That's the only thing we're doing this time. We click Install. Here again, I'm going to pause the video while the installation proceeds. Okay, the installation's almost done. It hasn't even been a minute yet. But what I wanted to let you know was, as soon as the installation is completed, and there it is done, you need to take a screenshot, and you're going to paste that into step number 36. If you've got your screenshot, go ahead and click Close. Now, we're going to go over to that LUN Server 3. And we need to log back in, but our server manager should be up and running. Everything should be ready to go because we already logged into that in the beginning. Whoop, helps if you type the correct password. And what we're going to do, we're going to begin by adding a role and feature. And here again, we're going to click next 3 times, next, next, and next. On the select server roles, we're going to click next, and we're going to install those same Windows Server migration tools. So scroll down, you're going to select Windows Server migration tools, and click next, and click install. Once the tools are installed, you can go ahead and click close. I'm going to pause the video while it installs. Okay, well, the installation is not quite finished yet, but we've got a little bit of work we've got to do over on our DC1. So I want everyone to click on LUN DC1. And once that comes over there, we're going to log back in. We're going to create a shared folder for our migration usage. So we're going to log in, and we're going to go to File Explorer. In File Explorer, we're going to go to this PC, and then we're going to double click on our local disk C. We're going to create a new folder. We're going to call that folder Software. Go ahead and right click on the folder and go to Properties. We're then going to select Sharing, Advanced Sharing. We're going to put a check and share this folder. We're going to go to Permissions, and for everyone we're going to allow full control. And then click OK, click OK, and click OK. Now, double click on the software folder. We want to create another folder inside of it, and that folder name is going to be Migrate. If you've got that folder, let's go ahead. We can close File Explorer, and we're done with our domain controller for the moment. We're going to go back over to our LUN SVR3. Okay, our feature installation has completed. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to click Close. Now, real important, we need to go to our SVR2, and what we're going to do is we are going to open up File Explorer. And we should be able to find that folder that we have shared on the network. So I'm going to do / lun-dc1 / and there's my software folder. I can just highlight it and press enter. We've got access to it. Wanted to make sure that we had access to it, okay? Now, go to Tools and go down to Services and select Services. When our services come up, we're going to scroll down to DHCP Server. It's right there. Single click to select it and tell the service to stop. All right, your service is stopped. Now, let's go ahead and minimize our services for now. And we're going to go back up to Tools, and we're going to go down here to the bottom, Windows Server Migration Tools, and select Windows Server Migration Tools. As you can see, this is going to open up. It looks like command prompt, but it's actually PowerShell. See, it says right there. And you can also tell that because there's a PS ahead of the prompt. We're going to type in the following: export-smig, and I'm going to press a tab to tab complete and see if it will know what it is. Okay, right there. I only pressed the tab button one time and then just waited for it to figure out what I wanted it to do. Export-smig server setting. Put a space and then type -fe tab feature ID space DHCP, another space, -u for user, tab to complete. This helps save on some spelling errors, plus when there's a really long command, saves you some time. another space, all, space, dash G for group, tab complete, space, dash IPC, that's IP short for IP config, space, dash P for path, and now we have to tell it where to find the folder that we want to export that feature to. And that's going to be our lun-dc1/software/migrate. If it scrolls off your screen like that and wraps around, that's fine. Another space and dash V tab complete for verbose. Press enter. It wants to know, hey, what's the password of the account that's authorized to do this? So we put in our capital PA11WORD and press enter. It's collecting data about our DHCPs. It's collecting all that information. It's looking at what it takes to make that role work on this server, and it's going to export it to that folder. Once it's done, we'll be able to go over to our server 3 and migrate it to there. Looks like it completed just fine. Now, once you get that same screen, go ahead and take a screenshot and paste that into step number 54. Okay, I'm just going to wait a second. Okay, so I'm just going to leave that up on the screen for now. Let's go ahead and we're going to click over on LUN SVR3. And we're going to open up our File Explorer here. And we're going to navigate to that same software folder. Whack whack lun-dc1 whack software. We're going to right click on the migrate folder and we're going to copy. And then we're going to click this PC, double click the C drive, and we're going to paste the migrate folder here. If we look, it should contain our files. Yes, there it is. There's our migration file. That's what we're going to be needing to access. All right. Now, the next thing we need to do is we're going to click the Start button. We're going to type CMD to bring up a command prompt, and we're going to press enter. Let's type ipconfig space/all. Okay, real important. We need to know this information. Okay, so sorry about that. I had to step away from the computer for a second. We've done an ipconfig space/all. Now, what this does is this allows us to see the MAC address for our system. So what we need to do, this is for SVR2, we need to record, I'm sorry, this is SVR3. Like I said, I had to step away from the computer for a minute. This is SVR3. We need to record the MAC address, write the MAC address down, because we're going to need this. So everyone, see that MAC address right there? Your physical address? Write a little chart out, lun-svr3, and then record that MAC address to the right of it. What we're going to do then is we're going to go over to SVR2 and do the same thing. All right, I'm going to pause this while I write it down, and then we're going to go over and do the same thing on LUN SVR2. Okay, so I've got my MAC address written down, and that's for LUN SVR3. I'm going to go over to LUN SVR2, and I'm going to do the same command in that PowerShell window. And there's my MAC address for my other system. So I'm going to pause the video while I write this down. This is for LUN SVR2. Okay, so I've got that written down. This is my MAC address for SVR2. Okay, we're done on SVR2 for the moment, so now we need to go back to SVR3. In SVR3, we're going to go ahead and we're going to close our command prompt. We're going to go up to Tools. We're going to select Windows Server Migration Tools, Windows Server Migration Tools, and select that. It's going to open up that same PowerShell window. This is where we're going to need those MAC addresses. Now remember, on SVR2 we used the export-smig server setting. Now we're going to run the import version of that. So import-smig, I'm going to hit Tab, my Tab button on the keyboard one time, and let it complete. Make it easy on yourself. Now it tells what do we want to import, what feature ID. Notice I had to hit feature twice. Feature ID, that's what you need to have there on your screen. We're going to import DHCP, a -U for user, tab complete, space, all. Again, the -G for group, tab complete, space. The -IP config, and yeah, make sure you get no spaces in there. Very important. Tab complete. Whoop, I misspelled. IPC for IP config. See, that's why we needed. That's why that tab complete is so helpful. Another space. All space. Here, now, this is where we're going to be using those MAC addresses. -SOU, the beginning of source physical address. We're going to type in our MAC address. We're going to do a quote. And I'm going to type in my MAC address, 5254800000, and this is for number 2, for SVR2. And mine ended with 52. Let's see, 52, 54, 80, 0000, 52, and a closing quote. We're going to do another space, -TARG for target physical address, using that tab complete. Save yourself some spelling errors. Another set of quotes. My MAC address is almost identical for SVR3. 525480000054, and a closing quote. We're going to also tell it, where do we find our migration settings? Well, that's the path that we want to look at. We're going to type in a C:// Whoops, that doesn't work. There we go. M for migrate. I can, here again, you can tab complete this. Look at that. How cool is that? Another space and a -V for verbose. What does that do? That puts those messages on the screen so we can see its progression. And press enter. Oh, I typed something wrong. Physical address is not valid. 246. What did I type in wrong? 246. Let me pause this while I take a look. Well, the message is right there on my screen. I didn't put the dashes in the MAC address. It's very easy to make these mistakes. Press your up arrow one time. It repeats the last command. And I'm going to backspace until I get back over to that MAC address. Every 2 characters, there's a dash. Okay, now we need to do that to our target MAC address as well. Now let's try that again. Press enter. Hey, well, there still might be a problem, but the command we typed in, there was nothing wrong with that. What password do we have that gives us access to do this? You guessed it, PA11WORD. Verbose, it's collecting data. Come on. Come on, it's going to take a few minutes because it's actually bringing that role into this server where it did not exist before. So let's just sit back. I'm not going to pause the video. I'm going to wait until this completes. So we may have a little bit of silence here. Now, once we're done, and I'm certain we're going to be successful. Oh, there it's installing features. Once it's done, we're going to be taking a screenshot of that successful completion, and we're going to be pasting that into step number 63. So let's just sit back and we're going to wait. It's still working. It's going to take a few minutes. Okay, there it's collecting our data. So it installed the role and feature. It's collecting data. Now it's importing that data, the DHCP scope that we previously created. There, it's just about done. I think we're there. Yes, yes. Success. All right, get that screenshot. Paste that into step number 63. Now let's go. We need to do one more thing here. On our server 3, right click on your start button, go to control panel, click on network and internet, click on the network and sharing center. I want you to select our private interface, select properties, and double click IPv4. What server are we on? We're on server 3. That's supposed to have an IP address of .23, isn't it? Yeah, that migration wizard brought in more than just the DHCP role. It knew that DHCP server was at .22, and it's trying to reassign us as that. We need to change that to .23. Go ahead and click OK, and click Close. Now, what we need to do is we need to restart our server. But I'm not going to close windows and click buttons and all that stuff. I'm just going to simply type shutdown, -R for restart, -T for time, and the time is going to be 0 seconds. So we're telling it to restart now. And there it goes. We're going to go ahead and we're going to wait for this to restart and come back up. Now, one thing it did is it brought in that DHCP role, and it imported that main scope that we had created. That's all there. But what it doesn't do is it doesn't install the management features. Remember previously we looked under features and we expanded out the role and the feature administration tools under features? Well, that's what we're going to do now. We're going to install that. So let's go ahead and get logged in. Now once Server Manager comes up and is fully loaded, we're going to be going to Manage, Add Roles and Features. It's going to take just a moment. If you got a cool drink or a cup of coffee, have a sip. Okay, there's our Server Manager. It's just about loaded. Give it just a moment. Remember, we didn't have any installed roles in this before, did we? But now we're going to see the DHCP there. And there it is. Look at that. Now, let's go to that Manage, Add Roles and Features. Don't worry about those red warnings. Next, 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 next. Under Features, scroll down till you see Remote Server Administration Tools. We're going to expand that. And we're going to expand Role Administration Tools. What do you think we're going to add? We're going to add DHCP server tools. We're going to click next, and we're going to click install. Should only take a moment or two, but I'm going to pause the video while it does. Okay, well, our feature of our DHCP server tools has been installed. Let's go ahead and click close. And now, remember when we first installed the role on server 2? We had to complete the DHCP configuration. Well, we've got to do the same thing here. That's why that yellow triangle is there. So let's go ahead and select that and then complete DHCP configuration. We're going to create the following security groups. Here's our credentials that we're going to use for it, and commit. And done. Close. Just that easy. Now let's go to our tools, DHCP. Let's open our DHCP console. We're going to make it a little bit larger so we can have a nice clear view of everything that's there. Let's select our SVR3. We're going to select IPv4, and there's our scope. Go ahead and expand that. Let's take a look. There's our server. There's our address pool. Here's our scope options that we configured. Everything that was configured on SVR2 is now on SVR3. Go ahead and take a screenshot of your browser showing your DHCP scope being configured and installed, and paste that into step number 85. If you've got that screenshot, your exercise is done. But we're going to go ahead and we're going to leave both SVR2 and SVR3 logged on, and we're going to do our lab challenge. Now our lab challenge, and you can close that DHCP console. Our lab challenge is managing servers remotely. Because remember in our setup video how I talked about that you don't have to even log into a server to be able to work on it. In this exercise, you will access a computer remotely using computer management and the remote desktop connection program. Many of the snap-ins supplied with Windows Server 2016 enable you to manage other Windows computers on the network. You can use the remote desktop connection program to connect to computers running server with desktop experience and server core. Okay, so we're going to go to SVR2. Remember I said we were going to stay logged into that? Okay, well, our screen locked, which is a good security feature. Let's go ahead and get logged back in there. Keep in mind, you don't want to leave servers unlocked. We can go ahead and we can close our Windows Server Migration Tools. And we've got our Server Manager up. Let's go ahead and click Tools and Computer Management. Now remember I mentioned the fact that we can manage computers remotely from computer management in our Lab 1 at the very end of that. Remember I mentioned that? Well, this is what we're going to do. We're going to right click and say connect to another computer. And we're going to connect to LON-SVR3. Not SVR2, but SVR3, and click OK. And just that quickly, we're connected. Let's go ahead and expand services and applications. Takes a moment to read it, and then we're going to go ahead and select services. There's our services running on SVR3. Let's scroll down till we see Principler. There it is. Let's go ahead and right click on it and say restart. Perhaps a user had a problem with the Principler on it. Without ever logging into that computer, we restarted the service on it. Go ahead and take a screenshot and paste that into step number 7. If you've got your screenshot, go ahead and close computer management. Now, let's go back over to LUN SVR3. On SVR3, go ahead and select the local server. And in our properties section, see here? See where remote desktop says disabled? Go ahead and select that and say allow remote connections to this computer. And now it's going to add a firewall exception rule for us. That's good. Okay, before we do that, what's the warning that you get? Well, remote desktop firewall exception will be enabled. You choose to enable remote desktop connection for all network connections on this computer. Well, that's the warning. You're enabling remote desktop connections from all network connections to this computer. So our warning is that the remote desktop firewall exception will be enabled. An exception is a warning, right? Okay, we can go ahead and we can click OK. We can then click OK again. If we refresh our server manager, we should be able to see it. Yes, remote desktop is enabled. Let's go back over to server 2. And we're going to click start. And we're going to select a remote desktop connection. And we're going to type in LUN-SVR3 and press enter. It's saying, hey, who has permissions to connect? Well, we, the administrator, do. Put your password in. And if we look down here, it's connecting. Should just take a few more moments. Securing our connection, making sure it's a good encrypted connection. Up, and here it comes. We can tell we're on a remote desktop because of this blue bar up here. See, and in fact you can move it out of the way. You can make it not full screen if you want. I can double click on it. If I drag it down, that takes it off of full screen. Double click on the title bar again, full screen. Play around with that. Okay, so we are connected. I can see this blue bar up here. Go ahead and take another screenshot and paste that into step number 17, showing that remote desktop to SVR3. Now, go ahead on our remote desktop. Let's click the start button and select the power and then select restart. Choose a reason, and we're going to say let's just pick a reason. We can pick any reason we want. Let's say operation system reconfiguration planned, and click continue. That server is now being restarted. This is remote management. Okay, while SVR3, oh, we got a little warning, the task window's open. Tell it to restart anyways. And our remote desktop connection should get broken here in just a moment. We'll wait for that to break. Just want you to be able to see exactly what occurs. Okay, there it goes. And our remote desktop connection is gone, and we're back on SVR2. Now, on SVR2, go ahead, go up to Manage, Remove Roles and Features. We're going to click Next. We're going to click Next. We're going to deselect DHCP Server and remove features. We're going to scroll down. We're going to deselect Web Server and select Next. Now on the features page, remember we had installed that Telnet client? Well, we're going to deselect Telnet client. We're also going to go down to the bottom and we're going to remove that XPS viewer. Wherever it is. There it is. Just didn't want to scroll down right away. Go ahead and click Next and click Remove. It's going to start removing and everything's going to be removed that we just told it to. DHCP server, those role features, the Telnet client, all those web server features, all being removed. I'm going to go ahead and pause the video while the removal continues. Okay, so our feature removal is complete, and we can see a note, a warning that a restart is pending. So we need to restart our computer. So let's go ahead, before we do anything else, get a screenshot showing the successful removal of those features. If you've got your screenshot, go ahead and click close. If the software folder and file explorer is still open, go ahead and click close. And we still had services open, we can close that. And we click our start button, select power, and select restart. And we're just going to select planned for restart. Now, so it's working on removing those features for the restart. While that's occurring, let's go ahead and go over to SVR3, because we don't need that DHCP server. We can go ahead and get logged in. We're going to remove that as well. Log into PAWORD. And what we're going to do is we're going to wait for Server Manager to come up. And again, we're going to do remove roles and features. This is our server cleanup portion. While I'm waiting for Server Manager to come back up, I'm just going to make sure yep, looks like Server 2 is already back up. Over here on Server 3, our Server Manager is loading. Should be done just here in a moment. We'll wait for it to finish loading. Sometimes if you try to add a role or feature or remove a role or feature before Server Manager is fully loaded, you'll get a warning telling you to wait. So let's go ahead. We're going to go to Manage. We're going to go to Remove Roles and Features. Don't worry about that warning up there. We're going to click Next, Next, and we're going to deselect DHCP Server, and we're going to remove the features, the management features. We're going to click Next. We're going to click Next. Yep, that's what we want to do. We're going to remove the role and remove the administration features. Click Remove. Once that's done, go ahead and reboot your SVR3. Once SVR3 has rebooted, your lab is complete. So I anticipate this being successfully completed. So at this point, I'm going to go ahead and end the video. Thank you for viewing 70-740 Lab 2.